What's up, sisters? It's your boy, Beef, and today we're forging a build so powerful, even the gods themselves would tremble. We're bringing Sauron into Baldur's Gate 3, an unstoppable force of shadow, fear, and absolute domination. This is the Shadowmaster Illrigger, a dark paladin-like warrior who strikes from the depths of the void, combined with the Great Old One Warlock, bending minds to his will. With this build, we're going full Dark Lord, instilling fear, crushing enemies with overwhelming might, and making sure that no one escapes your grasp. Before we dive in, thank you so much for watching. If you like these kinds of modded build guides, make sure to like the video, drop a comment on what you would tweak, and subscribe for more Baldur's Gate 3 modded content. But enough talk, let's forge the Dark Lord's path. So what exactly is an Illrigger, and why is it perfect for Sauron? The Illrigger is a class from MCDM, released last year on D&D Beyond, designed to be a dark anti-paladin, a Hell Knight in service to an Archdevil, acting as their enforcer and executioner. This type of character is all over pop culture. Darth Vader is Palpatine's Illrigger, and Sauron himself was the Illrigger of Morgoth. In Baldur's Gate 3, we're bringing this archetype to life by taking the Shadowmaster Illrigger subclass, which turns us into the bringer of fear, destruction, and death, and then enhancing it with a few levels of the Great Old One Warlock, amplifying our ability to strike terror into the hearts of mortals. This mod was created by Covalus Livane, and I've linked it below if you want to try this build for yourself. Now, for our racial choice, I'm going to be going with the Half-Orc, not because Sauron himself was a Half-Orc necessarily. He's actually a Maiar, an immortal being of raw power, but because Morgoth, his master, created the Uruks, and Sauron perfected them as his soldiers. In Baldur's Gate 3, the Half-Orc is actually a fantastic and perfect pick for this build. We'll get access to proficiency in the intimidation skill, because a Dark Lord should be terrifying. We'll also have relentless endurance, which basically gives us one free use of a death ward, keeping us alive because death is not an option for us, and we'll also get savage attacks, which will give us massive critical hit damage, making us even deadlier in melee range. All of these things together make the Half-Orc not just thematically fitting, but also insanely powerful for the way that we're going to be playing this build. At level 1, we're going to be starting with the Illrigger class. The primary feature of the Illrigger class is our Baleful seals. These are sort of like Hunter's Mark crossed with Divine Smite, and they'll use our bonus action to apply these as a condition onto our enemies, and then when either we or an ally attack a sealed creature, we can choose to burn the Baleful seal to deal either fire or necrotic damage to our enemy. You can place as many seals onto one enemy as you want before expending them, but I find that applying one and then burning it is usually enough within the context of Baldur's Gate 3. We're also going to start with the Forked Tongue, a passive feature which allows us to gain proficiency in a party face skill. Since we're a Half-Orc, we already have intimidation proficiency, so I am going to go with Deception because I think that it lines up with Sauron very well. Persuasion is probably the most optimal choice here, but I'm going to go with Deception for roleplay reasons. For our background, I'm going to go with the Charlatan because it says that we are an expert in manipulation, prone to exaggeration, and more than happy to profit from it. If anything sounds like Sauron, I think that Charlatan definitely takes the cake. For our ability scores, we're going to be focusing primarily on strength and charisma, so we're going to set both of these to an even 16. We're going to set our constitution to a 14 for the added tankiness. Since this character is primarily going to be wearing heavy armor, we're going with a dexterity score of 10 because we won't get very much benefit from our dexterity score otherwise, besides initiative. We're also going to go with a wisdom score of 10 and our intelligence score at 8 because we don't really need it very much. Although Sauron is obviously very cunning, we're going to use our charisma primarily for that aspect of his character. For our skill proficiencies otherwise, I'm going to go with insight and persuasion because we already have the other two, so might as well grab some extra persuasion bonus. And also insight because it is fantastic to have when we are in dialogue. That just about covers it for everything at level 1. Let's go ahead and move on up to level 2. At level 2, we get to pick a combat mastery. There are some pretty cool options in here to customize how our character will play, but the best choice for us is to go with Lies. This ability allows us to substitute our charisma modifier for both attack and damage rolls, basically giving us the effects of the Warlock Pact of the Blade at level 2, and since we went 16 charisma, this is a fantastic choice. The other options in here, like Lissom, I think is how it's pronounced, will allow us to not provoke opportunity attacks whenever we attack a creature. Unfettered allows us to increase the range of our Baleful interdicts, which is more important for a ranged build. Inexorable allows you to have a +1 bonus to saving throws up to a maximum of +5 whenever there are enemies surrounding you. Brutal allows you to push enemies whenever you hit them with a two-handed weapon, and Bravado allows you to add your charisma modifier to your armor class when you are unarmored. So for our purposes, we're going to go with Lies, because that is going to give us the Pact of the Blade bonus, effectively. And we're also going to get to choose an Interdict boon. These are kind of like our version of a Warlock's Invocations, and my pick here is going to be the Soul Eater, which will grant us temporary hit points equal to our Illrigger class level every time that we burn a seal on a creature, this will grant us pretty regular overhealth so that we can mitigate a little bit of the oncoming damage as a frontliner. At level 3, we're going to choose our subclass. Although there are 5 in the tabletop version of the class, only 3 are available to use with this mod. The Architect of Ruin is more of a quartercaster with access to some spells, like a paladin. The Painkiller subclass gets no spells, but also has innate heavy armor and some other abilities. And our pick, Shadowmaster, is generally more of a rogue-style assassin. The reason that we want to take this subclass, the Shadowmaster, is for a couple of the unique subclass features. Marked for Death will give us advantage on our first attack every turn on a sealed creature, which will enable us to trigger Strike from the Dark. Strike from the Dark is our next feature. When we hit a sealed creature with a weapon attack and we have advantage, we'll deal 2d4 additional damage. If we are in Shadow, add another 1d4. This basically gives us the ability to sneak attack just by placing a seal and attacking an enemy, then burn the seal for more fire damage too. We also get access to Master of Disguise, which is basically Disguise Self, but it uses our Invoke the Hells charge. Not super powerful, since we can get that ability in other ways. No Escape, on the other hand, allows us to shut down an enemy using our Invoke the Hells charge and a bonus action so that they cannot move and just can't do anything, really. That is all for our subclass at level 3, so we'll move on to level 4. At level 4, we mostly just get to pick a new feat, and I am going to go with Great Weapon Master. We're going to be wielding two-handed great swords for the most part, so with our sneak attack and seal damage, we're going to be doing insanely massive damage. Since this class doesn't actually start with heavy armor, you might want to take the heavily armored feat here and delay your acquisition of Great Weapon Master. If you choose to do this, then I recommend grabbing a shield and a mace of some sort so that you can still kind of be Sauron and have access to a little bit more tankiness, but I don't have that issue, so I'm going to go ahead and take the Great Weapon Master feat for extra damage. At level 5, we get access to our extra attack, which is literally always awesome to have on pretty much any character. At level 6, we're going to take our first multi-class level into Warlock. You could keep going with the Illrigger for a few more levels, but there's a strange bug where when you hit level 12 and try to go past it when you only have Illrigger levels, you can't level up anymore. But if you have a level of another class and reach the max level on the Illrigger class, you can keep going with your dip. So because of that, we're going to go into Warlock now, because we might as well. For our cantrips, we're going to go with Eldritch Blast and also Green Flame Blade. We're going to be going all in on the fire damage, so let's go ahead and take Green Flame Blade for even more fire damage on our attacks. For our subclass, we're going to be taking the Great Old One. Our patron is going to be Morgoth, Iluvatar, whoever you want to headcanon, really, and we'll also get access to Mortal Reminder. This allows us to spread fear whenever we get critical hits, which isn't critical to our build, but a nice bonus to have whenever we get them, especially since Sauron is fucking scary. We'll get to choose 2 spells, and I am going to start with Dissonant Whispers and also Armor of Agathis. At level 7, we're taking our second level of Warlock to get access to some invocations and spells. You can take pretty much whatever spell you want here. Hellish Rebuke is a fine choice for doing some fire damage on our reactions at this level. For our invocations, I'm going to be grabbing both Devil's Sight and Agonizing Blast. Devil's Sight is going to give us that sweet magical darkness vision, and Agonizing Blast will allow us to add our Charisma modifier to our Eldritch Blast if we need to make a ranged attack for whatever reason. At level 8, we're taking our third level of Warlock so that we can get access to second level spells and also choose our Pact boon. The main thing that we want here is access to the Darkness spell. Our strategy here is going to be self-casting Darkness and then using it to get our Strike from the Dark bonus for hella melee attack damage bonuses. We're also going to be taking the Pact of the Blade, which isn't a big boost at the moment, but will be later. Since we have the Lies feature from the Illrigger class, we already have Charisma scaling, but eventually we'll get Deepened Pact, which will stack for a third attack, unless you're in Honor mode. I'm not playing in Honor mode, so that is just fine with me. At level 9, we're going to switch back to level 6 of the Illrigger, which will give us access to Infernal Conduit, which in Baldur's Gate 3 is kind of like Lay on Hands, but evil. We can either siphon our own hit points to heal an ally, or siphon an enemy's hit points to heal ourselves. At level 10, we take our 7th level of the Illrigger class for more interdict boons. We'll also get access to the Veil of Lies, which is a bonus action ability that allows us to burn a seal to turn invisible, which is pretty cool and feeds into the power that the One Ring has access to. It turns people invisible. For our interdict boon, we're going to go with Unleash the Hells. This allows us to spend a reaction when we're burning a seal to do 2d6 additional fire or necrotic damage in a 3-meter explosive radius. Hell yeah, literally. At level 11, we're going for our 8th level of Illrigger so that we have access to a feat. And we're going to be taking Heavily Armored at this point so that we can get our Heavy Armor proficiency finally. If you went with Heavily Armored at level 4, then go ahead and grab Great Weapon Master at this point for some extra melee damage. At level 12, we're taking our 9th level of the Illrigger class, which will expand our Forked Tongue passive ability to give us advantage on insight checks, which is pretty cool. There's not much else going on at this level, so we'll go ahead and move on. At level 13, we're choosing our 10th level of Illrigger, which will give us access to Blood Price. This is basically the equivalent of a tabletop legendary resistance. If we're going to fail a saving throw, we can choose to take 1d10 necrotic damage, boosting our saving throw by 1d10, which makes us much more likely to pass it. This is the only tabletop class which has a feature like this, which is absolutely insane and really powerful. At level 14, we get our 11th level of the Illrigger class, which gives us a ton of new abilities. First off, we have Terrorizing Force, which allows us to imbue our weapon with 1d8 of additional damage, either cold, fire, necrotic, or poison damage. We'll also get access to Summon the Hells, which allows us to summon a Cambion companion. As a Shadowmaster Illrigger, we'll get access to the Evasion feature, a permanent 3-meter boost to our movement speed, advantage on stealth ability checks, and Dark Vision up to 24 meters. At level 15, we're going to be taking our final level of Illrigger for a feat and one last interdict boon. For our boon, I'm going to be taking Hellish Frenzy. This is insane because Hellish Frenzy will give us basically a free haste on our turn as long as we have a sealed enemy nearby. If we're within 9 meters of a sealed enemy, we get double movement speed, +2 to our armor class, and 1 free weapon attack. We also don't need an action to activate this, we just can. For our feat, I'm going to be taking an ability score improvement for a +2 bonus to our charisma, since our weapon attacks will scale off of charisma. And now that we've hit level 12 with the Illrigger, I'm going to run into the bug that I mentioned earlier. You can see as we level up that I am level 16, but my screen is all black other than this. I will just hit the escape button and then level up again and we can switch back to Warlock. For Warlock level 4, we're choosing a new cantrip and spell. I'm going to go with Toll the Dead and also Mirror Image as my spell. For our feat, I'm taking another ability score improvement to top us off at 20 charisma. And just like that, with 2 levels, we have increased our charisma by 4. Haha! At level 17 and Warlock level 5, we get our Deepened Pact, so that now we have access to 3 attacks per action on non-honor mode play. We're also gaining access to 3rd level spells, and although Hunger of Hadar sounds like a seriously fun alternative to Darkness, we can't sit inside it or we'll risk taking damage and might lose our concentration, so I'm not a big fan here. Instead, I'm going to go with Psionic Blast from Mistress Spells, because there's that one scene from the prologue of the first movie where Sauron swings his mace and knocks back like 5 enemies with every swing, so I think it kind of matches. It's also a super fun spell that isn't concentration, so works for me. For our invocation, I'm going to go with the Eldritch Mind. This will give us advantage on our concentration checks very similarly to the Warcaster feat, but it is an invocation instead. This isn't part of the base game, but it comes with the Hexblade mod and is part of Dungeons & Dragons, so I feel fine taking it. Repelling Blast also works here if you want, but I have Eldritch Mind as a possibility, so I'm going to go ahead and grab it. At level 18, we get our 6th level of Warlock, which gives us access to Entropic Ward. Entropic Ward allows us to use our reaction to impose disadvantage on an incoming attack roll, and if it misses, we get advantage on our next attack roll against that creature. For our new spell, I'm going to be taking the Fear spell, because we are Sauron, and he is fucking terrifying. At level 19 and Warlock level 7, we're going to get access to 4th level spells, and here we're going to pick the Shadow of Mordor spell from Mistress Spells, which is our new darkness spell, but 1,000,000 times better. We're going to wreath our body in fiery shadows that heavily obscure us, granting resistance to radiant damage, and any attackers will take 2d8 necrotic damage in retaliation. The best part about this spell is that the darkness cloud follows us, so we aren't limited to staying in one spot. We just become a traveling cloud of darkness with an untouchable greatsword at its center. For our final invocation, I'm going to go with Repelling Blast, but you could do pretty much whatever you want to grab here. And finally, at level 20, we're going for our 8th level of Warlock. For our last spell, I'm going to grab Gravity Sinkhole, which is also from Mistress Spells, just because it sounds fun as hell. It does 5d10 force damage in an area of effect, creating a sphere of crushing force that pulls enemies towards it. It's kind of like the Black Hole ability that is part of the base game, but it is a spell that we can use, and why not? Let's take it. If you really wanted to, you could grab something like Dimension Door or Banishment. It's really up to you. We're going to be focusing primarily on our Shadow of Mordor, so this is a really good one for us to have because it is not concentration and just gives us the ability to pull enemies in. For our final feat, I'm going to go with Savage Attacker. We have a ton of damage riders, so rerolling low dice rolls is absolutely invaluable to this build. That takes care of pretty much everything for leveling our Sauron build, so let's pop out and talk about some gear that will further enhance our playstyle. For our equipment, let's start with the helmet. For our helmet, we're going to use the Helldusk helmet, giving us Infernal Sight. You can see in magical and ordinary darkness up to a range of 12 meters. We already have this through Devil Sight, but we do get access to We Cannot Be Blinded, which is really nice, because then it just means that we are resistant to the blinded effect. We'll also have Magical Durability. The wielder has a +2 bonus to saving throws and spells, and attackers can't land critical hits on the wearer, which gives us even more tankiness. This helmet will also give us access to Immolating Gaze, which is really cool. It does 2d8 fire damage and frightens a target. Really cool. You can do it once per short rest, but I don't use it very often unless you really want to. I have chosen to play this character as a Dark Urge, so I'm going to use the Deathstalker Mantle, which is a Dark Urge specific cloak. It gives you the shadow itself. Once per turn, when you kill an enemy, shroud yourself in primeval darkness to become invisible for 2 turns. Invisibility is one of the powers of the One Ring, so I think it goes without saying. Let's turn invisible. For our armor, we're going to use Blackguard's Plate, which reduces all incoming damage by 1, gives us advantage on wisdom saving throws, and will give us disadvantage on stealth checks. We already have advantage on stealth checks, so these 2 effects will just cancel each other out, and we'll have regular stealth checks, which isn't really that bad, considering we're wearing heavy armor. For our gloves, we're going to use the Helldusk gloves. These will give us Infernal Acuity, which has a +1 bonus to spell attack rolls and spell save DC. Infernal Touch will give our weapon attacks an additional 1d6 of fire damage. We'll also get a +1 bonus to our strength saving throws and the Rays of Fire cantrip, which is really cool. It does 3d6 fire damage for each ray. It's really powerful. We're also going to use the Boots of Striding. When you cast a spell that requires concentration, you gain momentum for 1 turn, and while you are concentrating, you can't get knocked prone or be moved against your will. This character's main threat is going to be getting knocked prone to knock us out of concentration, but whenever we have these boots on, we literally cannot be knocked out of concentration unless we take so much damage that it knocks us out. For our amulet, I'm going to use the Surgeon's Subjugation Amulet. Once per long rest, when scoring a critical hit on a humanoid, the wearer can paralyze the target for 2 turns. You can go with pretty much whatever amulet you want here, but I have decided to go with this one just because I like it. I'm also going to use the Ring of Free Action. You ignore the effects of difficult terrain and cannot be paralyzed or restrained. Because our boots are primarily preventing us from being knocked prone, this Ring of Free Action will give us the effects of any of the other boots that we would have chosen otherwise. And for our second ring, we're going to use the Shifting Corpus Ring. The main reason that we're using this is because it will give us access to invisibility and blur. Mostly here I want invisibility because this is going to be our one ring. Why not? There's really not any other ring that I would put here. Maybe the risky ring, but we don't really need that. Instead, I'm going to go with the shifting corpus ring because this character is so powerful, and I feel like we really need a ring that can be our one ring. For our weapon, I'm going to be using Baldur's Giant Slayer, which obviously you don't really get until very late in the game. Up until that point, my choices for weapons would be the Everburn Blade, which you can get on the Nautiloid, basically as soon as you get there, and that will last you pretty much through the rest of the game. Jorgorl's Greatsword, any of the other great swords will be a fantastic pick up until that point. The Hellfire Great Axe is also a fantastic choice. Whenever you do damage with this weapon, you gain 2 turns of heat, and it is just a big old great axe that does a bunch of damage and has the Hellfire Cleave ability. The Sword of Chaos is also a fantastic choice, which will give us a little bit more sustainability, and is probably about on par with Baldur's Giant Slayer. However, Baldur's Giant Slayer is probably going to be your most optimal choice once you get access to it, so I'm going to be using it for the purposes of this build. That pretty much takes care of everything for the leveling on this character, so let's pop out and take a look at a few of our buffs and passive abilities. So the first thing that I'm going to do is equip the Drakethroat Glaive, because I am going to put Baldur's Giant Slayer on the ground. And now that it's on the ground, I am going to use Draconic Elemental Weapon to give us an extra 1d4 fire damage, just because might as well. We have Savage Attacker and we're going all in on fire, so let's go ahead and do it. We're going to re-equip Baldur's Giant Slayer. We're then going to use our Combat Mastery Lies. We don't necessarily need this. We could also replace it with Binding our Pact weapon, which I'm going to do anyway, just because might as well. Then we can't have our weapon knocked out of our hand, and also a bunch of other really great abilities. Then we're going to use Terrorizing Force, which allows us to imbue our weapon with cold damage, fire damage, necrotic, or poison damage. I'm going to go with fire for an extra 1d8 fire damage. Next up, we're going to use Summon the Hells so that we can get ourselves a Cambion companion. How cool is that? And that is pretty much everything in the way of our buffs and abilities, so let's go ahead and test this out in some combat and see just how strong it is. So we are going to start here with these 3 guys, just because they're the ones I like to start with. And as you can see, now that we have all of our buffs equipped, each of our melee attacks are going to do 2d6 plus 21 damage, plus 1d4, plus 1d6 fire, plus 1d8 fire. That's insane. Let's keep it going. If we decide to use our green flame blade, we'll do 1d4 plus 1d6 plus 1d8 plus 2d8 fire. Absolutely insane. Tons of damage riders. This is why we took Savage Attacker. So let's pop ourselves into turn-based mode. I'm going to activate our Shadow of Moil. This activates us for 10 turns. Shaboom! We've now got a big Shadow of Darkness following us around. I don't have any specific use here for my bonus action unless I want to apply a Baleful Seal, but I'm going to use that on my next turn. Okay, so we're going to start by putting a Baleful Seal on this guy with our bonus action. Ba-ba! Stealth successful. Surprised! Hee-hee! I'm a little bit low in the turn order because I have a pretty low initiative, but that's all right. We're going to do a Ray of Fire on this guy because I don't like him. Nice job, Cambion. Surprised. And now, let's see what we can do. Sauron, what do you want to do? Let's come hit this guy with... This guy is our sealed guy. We have a 98% on account of our advantage, because we have Marked for Death and Shadow of Invisibility equipped. I'm going to go ahead and pop up my combat window here so that we can take a look at all of the damage numbers as they come out. And let's give this guy a smack. 21, 28, and 10. Let's go ahead and look at the damage here. We did 28 from our base weapon damage, 10 fire damage, and 21 slashing damage from Strike from the Dark. That came out for... Oh my god, that's insane. Yeah, so... he died in one hit. We have more actions. Let's go ahead and hit this guy now. Ba-ba. 31 and 12. That's also a lot. Let's come hit this guy now. 28 and 40. Critical hit. Okay. Nice. Nice. So, because that was a critical hit, we activated our Savage Attacks, which gives us an extra 1d6 slashing damage. So, that was absolutely bananas. And the darkness just follows us. So, let's go do this on some bigger combat. Follow me, Darkness Cloud. Okay, so let's activate our Shadow of Moil. Enter turn-based mode. Let's apply a Baleful Seal to Gauntlet Edwina. Combat started. Attack. They are surprised. Our Cambion is first, so let's do this on this guy. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Nice damage. Surprised, surprised, surprised. My turn. So let's go hit this guy who is sealed. Come here. Holy damage. 30, 16, and 21. Let's take a look at that. 30 from our normal weapon attack, 16 from the fire, and 21 from strike from the dark. That's insane. They're dead. We didn't even have to trigger our seal there. But the seal did give us that strike from the dark, so cool. Let's keep hitting. Let's do this guy. 32 and 12. Let's go ahead and apply a Baleful Seal to him. And then let's do this. Okay. So, because we have killed 2 people, we triggered our Bloodlust. Let's hit this guy next. Critical hit, 27 and 42. Okay, we still have more attacks. Let's go over here. One more. There we go. That's 4 people dead on 1 turn, 2 actions. End our turn. Still surprised. Now it's your turn, Mr. Cambion. 9-7 miss. Okay. You can try. I'm not going to use it. Go ahead. Now we're going to hit this guy here. Let's hit him with a green flame blade. That's what I'm feeling. Wow, okay. Apply a Baleful Seal, please. Oh, it looks like green flame blade denies us access to our extra attacks. That's okay. I'm probably going to stick with regular attacks then. Let's do this, Pommel Strike. Okay. Works for me. 0, but he's prone. Let's do this. That one. Let's come over here first. Raise a fire. Raise a fire. Critical hit. Nice. 10 and 13. We're kicking ass, buddy. Go ahead and volley me if you want. Try it again. I have advantage. And now we're going to come over hall and hit this guy. 1 hit and he's down. Yeehaw! This is absolutely insane. I love it. We really are Sauron here. We're just sitting in this cloud of darkness. It follows us around. And, you know, enemies die. And that wraps up our Sauron Illrigger build. This class is an absolute monster, stacking seals, hitting like a truck, and dominating the battlefield with pure charisma and raw power. If you enjoyed this build or have any tweaks of your own, drop a comment down below. And if you want more homebrew classes, overpowered builds, or just pure chaos in Baldur's Gate 3, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will catch y'all in the next one.